right?
No.
So, but
Taking
you've
the
been on the
trailer into the
commission
shop
since
tomorrow.
January?
So.
Sorry.
You guys,
Yes.
y'all know each other down there?
At 6:31 p.m.
Not quite.
Yeah, we started. We're on record now.
So we're on record.
So-
Nice. Evidently starting.
All right, public comment. I can go get it. Public comment we've got 3 yeses. So. Patty.
215 North Maple Street. So I still have a concern with this lighting thing. First of all, it was supposed to it was initiated for the downtown core area. And then for whatever reason, it went into the residential area. And the city of Yamhill doesn't have a homeowners association. We're not a gated community. We're not a high-end, residential area. We're normal, everyday people that live here. And my issue with this is that if this ordinance passes, at some point in time, everybody's gonna have to change their lighting, whether it be the light itself or the fixture or whatever. And with people buying these new homes, the new subdivision, a lot of them are buying them before the homes are actually built, which gives them generally a certain allowance to purchase fixtures, colors, all of that type of thing for their home, whether it be inside or out. So they're gonna buy these homes. If this ordinance passes, then they're going to have to change what they've already chosen for their home. Me, for instance, I have a 113-year-old house that when we put fixtures on the outside of our house, I do it appropriate to the type of house. And if I have to go out and purchase other lighting, that's gonna be an expense, because it's not only the front of the house, it's the back. And personally, I don't wanna have to pay for an electrician to come out and redo everything. Because in my particular case, that's what it would take. Not only that, you're not looking at the landscape as far as the different heights of some of these homes that are in town. Me, for instance, our house sits up off of Highway 47 or Maple. There's a couple of homes over across the street from the park. It's gonna be irrelevant what kind of light they have, because they sit so high, you're gonna see the light regardless. So it's not gonna be able to pertain to them. Even if you put the light that Ken brought in today, you're still gonna see the light because of how high their house sits. So, and then, like I stated in the last time, if neighbors don't get along, this is gonna be another reason that they're going to be picking at each other, because like you said, it's gonna be complaint driven. And issues that are in town already that are complaint driven, and our police department is not addressing them, how are they going to find the time to address this? So my last comment is, and I don't know if these lights are dusk to dawn, or even if they work like that. That's what my lights are set up for right now, is dusk to dawn. So unless these lights are set up like that, I don't know how they would work. Anyway, that's all.
Thank you. Rocky. Rocky, did you have some testimony?
Thank you. I just wanted to make a couple of comments. I've got some questions
but I don't expect any answers. The question is for you to just give consideration to. And it has to do with your job as planning commissioners. A wonderful position, and a position that really and truly has a great deal of responsibility attached and associated with it. And I know that you're not exactly underburdened with all of the things that you're dealing with already. But it is important to give consideration to a number of items, because this is your city. This is my city. And we who live here most definitely want to be a part of decision-making on what we want to take place. You, this body, planning commissioners, you can make decisions, but your decisions technically fall into the category of a recommendation. Besides being a planning commissioner, you have another title, which is a citizen advisory committee person. You know, the abbreviation CAC. And you have your input. You're going to talk to people over the fence, people at the coffee shop, so on and so forth. And you may talk about things that take place that are relevant to what you do as a planning commissioner. And that is important. So my question to you is, do you have, or one of the questions, do you have a concept of how you would like this city to look? You know what it looks like today. And you're reminded by listening to the news and driving through other communities, the kind of things that are taking place. So the question is, since you have at least the ability to make recommendations, and we would hope that the body who makes the final decision would put a lot of weight on your recommendation. So I would encourage you to think about the kind of city that you would like this city to be, and what you would like for it to be when your tenure is up. Let me give you a quick example about something that has already happened that I personally disagree with, and it's in part, it's because I have a background that helps me appreciate and understand it. When the 62 lot subdivision, that land that used to belong to the YC school district, and was sold in order to cover a short amount of money that was overspent in because of the bond money and all of the problems and issues that they had. But in that project, everything that was necessary to do that subdivision came through this body and also came through the city council. And so when all that was said and done, and they actually began to do some construction, they came back to the city and said, we would like to have the setback requirement, that is the distance between the foundation and the property line, we would like to have that reduced. And what that actually accomplishes is it generates, in some cases, more land for them to build on, depending on the size of the subdivision. But here's the issue. When it was all said and done, they got to the point where there was only 5 feet distance between the foundation and the property line. And you know, the property line is in 4 directions, but we're looking at each side and the rear. So on each side, that means a total of 10 feet between homes. So if one home has becomes involved in fire, and let's just say that time goes by, it's not spotted right away, and this home was fully involved, got fired throughout the whole place. That fire, accompanied by wind, and that just pushes the fire even more. But having just 10 feet between homes allows another structure to become involved in fire.
Rocky,
Yes, sir.
you're making your point. I'm getting it. In fairness to other people, I'd like to let you know your time is up, and if you could wrap it up quickly. I'm listening to what you have to say. Just if you've got one more point, just make that,
Okay, I'll
okay?
make one more point.
Thank you.
And the point is that the municipal code, and I forget the other document right now by title, their bottom line is that for everything, all of the decision-making, that the foundation for that decision-making needs to be based on the safety and the welfare of the citizenry. So as we're going through making, submitting ideas for ordinances and changing things, the idea of, and variances, the idea of safety and welfare for our community is an important thought for you folks to give. Thank you.
Thank you, Rocky. Jenny, do you have something public testimony beside your report?
No.
Okay, we'll wait till probably the next item. Yes, committee reports. Jenny.
I'm gonna check on, online.
Oh, yeah, I'm so sorry.
Is there anyone online that would like to make a comment? If so, please raise your hand. I see no hands raised.
All right. Committee reports, Jenny, please.
So Jenny Morrison, here on behalf of the Economic Development Committee, 20051 Northwest Adcock Road. And we have not met for a couple of months due to various circumstances and also kind of trying to consider what our next steps were going to be. And so what we are considering, and talked to Shelley about this, to come up with a way to refresh the focus of the group. I think we have accomplished a lot over the past year and a half, making the recommendations, doing the research and all of that. And so we've gotten to a great point now with, all right, we've got the grant process in place, and we've got Rux, and we've got 3J Consulting. And so those next steps are in place, and we have Shelley. And so what our discussion has been from both the Yamhill Downtown Association and then members of the Economic Development Committee, that we have plenty of work still to do, but that it's important to kind of refocus because, again, we've reached some points in time, and after a year, and I think it's in April of last year was our first meeting. And so it's a good point to kind of reconvene and determine what the goals are for the next year or year and a half. I think that's, makes good sense and it's reasonable. And I'm not sure about if we have like bylaws or anything written down in stone yet, but if we had specific objectives for the group and what, there's the historic element, there's the, the things with code recommendations, and so to tighten it up and make it very clear with what the objectives are, and then we have those goals, and then we can stick to them and make some things happen. And also with the Downtown Association, as you know, we have Philip Higgins on the Downtown Association, and he's very interested in participating in the Economic Development Committee. He has a lot of great insight and experience. Philip Higgins, yeah. Yes, and so with our YDA timing, again, we have a lot of overlapping people on the YDA as well as interests. But so what we're trying to do is like, all right, who's on with our subcommittees for our nonprofit, who is on that, who is involved in the Economic Development Committee, and make sure that those people are aligned because we have some overlapping capabilities such as an interest with the Oregon Main Street, working with that organization to get grants going. And so just tightening it up. So that's what I like to propose, that we move to just a refreshing, a reset of the committee and determine the best times to meet and what the goals are. And then if there are additional people who want to get involved, bring them to the table as well, because we do have, other minds and talents out there too who can help as we're moving.
Jenny, did I hear you saying that you think was that a request to appoint Phil Higgins to the Economic Development Committee?
Yes, to get him involved, he would like to participate, and so what I'm not clear on is, here I am, speaking on behalf of this group, I know we're just a volunteer group to provide suggestions to you guys, and so we're not elected, we're not, I don't know if we're appointed or how we got here. I just was asked to attend, and so,
Yes,
however.
You're appointed.
Okay, so whatever, if we could revisit, excuse me, what that core number of people is, if there's if it's a time to expand that number by bringing Philip on, again, with Shelley being present in her profession, her, capacity as a city representative, I think we can really take what we've done so far and really get the ball rolling. And like Sue's interest in the historic element and Robert's interest in the historic element, we can work on that, but also we want to try to I feel like some of the meetings that we've had, there's so much interest and enthusiasm, but it's almost like, okay, we've got all these balls in the air, and then how to make it really clear, like, here's the next step, here's the next step, here's what fits with what you guys need and what the city needs.
Well, maybe, your different ideas could be brought to Shelley. Shelley, are you hearing, this is an opportunity for you to help coach them?
Sure, yeah. I think the idea of sort of revisiting maybe some the bylaws or a resolution as to sort of who should all be on it and then what your goals are. I think that's a great idea to refresh now that you've been doing it a year. See if the people that are still on it, maybe they want to stay on it, if they want to exit, and if new people want to come on, and then you can bring that before the commission when we have maybe have a meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Figure that out.
I know Philip's talent. If he wanted to be on the committee, the commission would consider that, and I can't speak for them, but we would consider that.
Great asset.
Definitely, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So you might talk to him, come back to us.
Yeah.
And also a plan just to inform us of where you're headed. That would be great.
Okay.
And I have, just make sure I have the committee, it currently consists of Robert, yourself, Karen, and Kristen.
Yes,
And-
and Sue.
And Sue, you're on the Economic Development Committee. Okay, I have you on the YDA. I didn't have you on that one.
No, I'm not on YDA.
My mistake.
Kristen's on the white.
Kristen's on YDA.
Yeah.
And on
Economic Development.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, I'll correct that.
Kristen and Kara and Jenny, those three are all on both committees.
Yeah.
And Robert's on the Neighborhood Association as well as this one. I'm the only one that's only on the one.
Okay,
And with Philip, and I'll talk to him specifically about, what kind of time commitment, but I think that with everybody being so busy too, we wanted to, I think that sometimes, we were trying to not meet just to meet, we want to have like specific things that we're working on. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be a standing, it can be a standing meeting if there's something going on, but if there's not, I'd like to think that we will have a lot going on, especially with the grant opportunities and moving things forward, but.
I think we have a bit of maybe Shelley could look for us, the charter that was created by Chief Graven for the Economic Development Committee. Does it include terms?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, thank you.
And it's the charter primarily based on historic, designation? Or was it,
I've never seen it.
I've never seen it either, so, yeah.
I remember, yeah, I read it to us.
Yeah, my recollection was that was a big piece of, that's kind of what drove it, but
Yeah,
I think we all discussed the fact that there was more opportunities than
Yeah,
just the
yeah.
story.
Was it about a year ago? Maybe that he would have done that?
A little more.
Yeah.
Maybe a little
Yeah.
longer than a year.
February of April, somewhere in there.
yeah.
April 23, okay.
And then possibly what we could do is, maybe with all of you guys, together with the members who are interested, find out, work on what those objectives are, or maybe that just comes.
Yeah,
from
that's
you.
something we can take a look at and then just
Yeah.
chat with them, bring that to them,
Yeah.
have them decide.
Good.
Because we want to be useful, but also, make the best use of everybody's time and everybody, volunteering for different things.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Right, and that's it for public comment and committees. And now is other business. First on is well, what I'm thinking of is before we go to liquid propane. This flyer that Shelley passed out about, is that the one about the training in Carlton? I've signed up for that. And maybe you're scratching your head on from what Rocky said. What is our concept of what we want the city to look like? We could take questions like that to this training and say, is that what we should be doing? Should we have separate meetings and work out, that? Or do we really just kind of take up things that come before us and make sure it fits into our personal ideas of what this looks like? Anyway, that's kind of a global question. I think we could use some training on that. So if you see that date on there and you can possibly make it, I think we would be a lot stronger commission if we all showed up there.
Yeah.
That's my encouragement. And it's free, and it down in the fine print, it says at 5:30, there's refreshments. I don't think get a tour of the new building or something, but it starts at 6. All right, that's all on that one. Well, you're there, hey, good to see you.
Good evening, everyone.
And you get turned up. You did very well.
Can you hear me?
Can you say something, Walt?
Yes, can you hear me?
Wide enough.
How's this?
We'll make do.
How's this?
Getting a lot of feedback.
Ooh,
I know. I need it.
how's this? Good, bad?
We can deal with that, Walt. Just make sure you speak up, please.
Okay, how's this? Does this help?
A little bit. It's fuzzy. This is gonna be a long night.
Wow. I don't know if it's on this end or your end. Let's see if I could change stuff here. Hold on.
Yeah, if it was an old-fashioned phone, I'd say smack the mouthpiece on your hand. Get the carbon out of the coils.
Ah,
Maybe on this end. I'm gonna test it again.
That means it's him, not us. The fact that we can hear that.
Yeah,
Is that
but
fuzzy too?
That was fuzzy too.
Well, maybe it is, huh? So he's wasting time if he's trying to fix it on his end. If there's anybody else online that could talk to us to see if it's.
No, I can tell just from the tone.
That,
Yeah,
It's
it's usually a lot clearer.
all right,
than
it looks like it's us, Walt, not you.
oh, really? Oh,
Oh.
God, it sounds like a breakup. It's us, not you.
Yes.
that. I'll play this one.
That's under the broom handle.
Unplug.
Yeah.
I would.
Not my area of expertise.
Mine
technology.
Somebody call them to turn up the volume well on their phone. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. No, I don't. Yeah.
You could try that. Maybe he could call my phone.
Yeah, Walt, is it possibility that you could call and use speakerphone on Ken's? Cause I'm not sure why it's not coming through on our end.
Well, I could also try just calling in.
Wait,
Does that work?
Yeah,
it's better.
Okay.
we can deal with that.
And I'll turn it up a little bit.
I'm at max.
Oh, you're at max, huh?
Maybe just jiggling a cord.
Okay, let's try. Liquid
Okay.
propane.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to start off by apologizing to Sue that it took so long to finally get this memo in front of the planning commission. So again, Sue, my apologies, but I finally, I think, got what you were looking for. So mea culpa. Basically, what I did is follow up with a person I've worked with in the past who's a building official who has given me some information, and I included a fact sheet along with the staff report. The bottom line is for a residential home or even commercial use, it takes a building permit and there's connection requirements and things need to be inspected. And as the little diagram shows, things like distances from the home, spacing, and there's all sorts of things that apply. So in terms of putting in an above ground LPG tank, the answer is yes, but it does require a building permit, proper connections, and also inspections. And again, this would also apply to, say, a gas station putting in an outside LPG tank. There's also additional requirements to protect them from damage, for example, bollards or other sort of reinforcement, so the tank won't be hit. Now, this is for LPG. With regard to gasoline, it's evident that industrial users sometimes have above ground tanks, but they're designed in a manner that if they were to break, they have a containment system to avoid spillage. The other thing too is that if they want to go ahead and put an above ground tank for the new gas station, they're going to have to come back to the planning commission. They're going to have to redo the site plan. They're obviously going to have a stricter standard with regard to fire safety in terms of any conditions, but looking at their layout, they'd probably have to drop parking spaces, reduce the size of the building, relocate the pumps, etc.
Well, I have to stop you because you become unintelligible, so it's just, it doesn't make any sense to have you keep going for the moment. You went from good to bad here about 20 seconds ago.
Okay, can you hear me now? Is that good?
No. It's on our end, we're pretty sure.
Oh, really? Well, even if I were to phone it in, that would still be a problem then.
Well, it would be, coming out of my speakerphone. You just call me personally.
Okay,
503.
just a second, almost there. Okay, go ahead.
503-550-3803.
3803.
That's
Calling. Okay,
Oh, I've got do not disturb on just a minute. Okay, it's off. All right, let's see if we can. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, can you turn yours down, Angie?
All right, try that, Will.
okay, does that work? Can you hear me?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, real good. So basically, that was the bottom line on LPG tanks. So yes, they're allowed with proper permits going through a building inspection and connections, et cetera. And with regard to gas tanks, the building official who I chatted with said he has not seen above ground fuel tanks for a commercial operation in his recent history. So I think we can probably not be too concerned with that with regard to the gas station. So again, that's basically my comments on LPG, and also, again, my apologies to Sue.
I have, let me say this one question. Say they did come back to us with a application for a above ground propane tank. And it was huge, you know, that kind of stands on end up in the air.
Sure.
Could we use the central business district overlay to say, you know, there's no more though, there's none like that in our districts, doesn't really go with what we have.
I think that's a subjective decision you could make. You're allowed to have a gas station, obviously, and you went through a lot of work with making sure the building met the requirements. I think it's a subjective decision, and I think if it were asked of me just to make a comment, I would probably suggest that it may not pass muster with the planning commission, and I'd probably leave it at that.
Does that help you suit away your concerns? Yeah.
Has anybody ever applied for British parking next to Camp Marco? I've never, does anybody ever apply for the permit?
Well, that's just if you call the propane folks and said, really a tank, they would go get a permit. They wouldn't
Correct.
bring it without a permit. Yes. Yeah.
And I was gonna mention that it was my last week's brief, and I was asked a question. Just, well, it's the just be a phone call. People there.
Okay, lighting regulations.
Yeah, it's.
I think I have my notes.
Okay, I'm unmuted. I'm just a second.
Okay.
Okay, that should work.
Yeah, not.
Thank you.
Where's it? Yeah, let's try it.
Okay.
Okay, no feedback.
So Shelley, would you say hi, Walt, and see if he can hear you?
Hi, Walt.
Hello.
Good. All right, let's move on then to lighting regulations, discussion residential. Did you want to lead out on that, Walt, or should we just take it up on our research?
Well, I'd just like to provide a little bit of an introduction here. When we started this whole thing of looking at dark skies, I was asked to go ahead and provide some examples for the planning commission to consider. One of those turned out to be City of Sisters, which had a rather all-encompassing set of regulations. And I don't think there was any particular direction I was told to go, but it's sort of like, this seemed to be a good starting point. Go ahead and put something together. And that's how we got the ball rolling on this whole thing. The regulations that you've been looking at include both non-residential and residential uses. Now, at this meeting and also at the last meeting, we had public comment concerning the impact on residential housing that the regulations may have. And also there's just, I think part of it had to do with, changing out fixtures, but also I think a matter of enforcement. And I do recall specifically at the last meeting that, it's important to note that you certainly don't want to establish rules that are difficult to enforce, but also may not be enforced. There's not a lot of interest in doing so. So my whole point of tonight's kind of discussion, item 5B, is just to look at that and ask the planning commission, when I put together a final document, do you want me to include the residential component? Or would you like me to redo it to only focus on commercial areas? Please bear in mind that if we are successful in achieving the sort of dark sky approach that you're looking at, these regulations can always be expanded. But before I proceed to spend any more time, and especially for the city money on this project, I want to be sure that I'm going in the right direction with the planning commission, and then I can prepare something for our next meeting. So that's basically, I'm just sort of introducing the whole topic to the commission for discussion. And at that juncture, you can, I'll go whichever way you want to go, but I want to make sure you understand how we sort of got here where we are now. So I'll leave it at that.
Great. So, commissioners, you've heard Patty's objections. You're kind of hearing Walt go, you really want to do this? Let me show you what I did with my research and some photographs I brought. And then maybe we'll just reconsider this whole residential thing. That sound good? But I took these pictures and I want to show you. All right. So let's do that. Now, I did want to point out the key issue on this is light trespass. And the definition of light trespass is condition in which light emanated directly by a light fixture shine across the property lines of the property containing the fixture. This means that a person standing on the other property sees the light emitting source directly. That means the LED, the filament. Like this one, even I was worried like, well, is this part that's clear? I mean, this isn't, but no, the filament's up in here. So you can't see the filament if this is down, and even when they're even a bigger spotlight, you can't see it. But that's it. This is, let's go to the other end of my pictures.
Okay.
Let's start with the other side. This is my garage.
Had a bulb in it, it's only showing one now.
You just hit your arrow, your sideways arrow.
All right, give me a minute. Should I? Maybe.
There they are. Yeah, that one.
Okay, this one's super bright.
Let's do that one first.
All right.
All right, that is a bulb, unshielded. It's an LED bulb in a fixture that I have over my house. So go to the next slide. This is the same bulb with a square piece of duct tape on the front. It's white duct tape. You can see a little bit of glow coming through it. But that Yeah, you can see the duct tape, and you can see the area is still lit pretty much the same. It's just not coming right at you in the eyeballs. Now, a camera is not your eye. You can't really feel it like you would a light, but standing there, it's a big difference when the filaments, when the LEDs are blocked. So now go to the next one if you would.
That's one.
Yeah, now that's this bulb. And it's just pointing down. And you can see it's lighting the area. It's not lighting the eaves, you know, the eaves as much. But to me, it's a decent light, and that is only 500 lumens. The other one was about 1,000. So just go to the next one, and that's just this other bulb also. 50 watts. This is a 50-watt equivalent. And that's just, you know, it's the same thing. It's not pointing up. It's not pointing out. It's pointing down. And that's that. So, and then I grabbed these pictures off the web, and I'll just pass these down. This shows an unshielded light, and then the guy taking the picture holds his hand up in front of the light. And in the first picture, you can't see there's a guy standing next to the garage. In the second picture, you can, because that's how your eyes work. So when I was reading about safety, which is a concern for limiting lighting, it said that glare can be, you know, less is more, in that when somebody drives by and they're looking at who's there, it makes a difference if the light source isn't coming right into your eyes. You can see other areas more clearly, because you know how it is when a light hits you in the eyes and when you're driving, it's like, I can't see anything. So all that said, let's hear what, if you guys want to continue with this, let me go back to Patty's problems. That, let's see. Appropriate fixtures. Maybe people won't deem these lights appropriate for their architecture. You know, they want the fascia lit up, or excuse me, the eaves. And I can point out, just can't point out, they would maybe just, and they don't want to put a duct tape on their piece of glass. You know, these are people could feel this way. Height is a thing. I think you can see if from these, you would have to be pretty low. It might have to be a pretty high hill to be able to see up under this light. But that does bring up, there's a 20-foot lighting restriction on lights on homes in this code. It can't be more than 20 feet high. And that's because at 20 feet, yeah, you're gonna start to see that. But still, it's the homeowner's responsibility to not let that get off the property. So that's what we'd be asking people to do. If it's 20 feet high, they're gonna have to do something to cut that off at the edge of the property, that you can't see the filament because of the glare. So let's see, what else did I write down that I wanted to? Causing problems between neighbors, people that don't do it because they don't want them. And I talked about enforcement with Shelley and the mayor. And what we have now is, if there's a code violation, they get a warning, no, I'm still not gonna do it. They get a lien on their house for the fine. And that stays there. Nothing happens until they sell the house. And then when they sell the house, the city gets their fine. So the guy might just go, fine, leave me, I don't care, do it. And that's where it would stay forever. That's where it would sit. That's the end of the enforcement that we would, but I think that we would recommend. We're not gonna say, no, we're gonna escalate that beyond what they already do. That's what they already do if there's violation, unless it's for safety of the community. Maybe if somebody's weeds are too high and they're a fire hazard, they're gonna stay with them. They would probably trim the bushes and charge them. And if they don't pay it, you would lien the property. So really, but it would get taken care of.
There is a citation in the middle of that though.
There is citation in the middle.
Yeah, so they might have to go to court over
Okay,
depending on how it's written in the code.
okay. Depending how we would write it in the code, what we would do as enforcement. Now, if you want to wade through all these questions to keep the residential restriction, we can do that. I think there's a way forward there to address the objections. Or is it?
Let's just do the commercial.
Uh-huh.
And then if we want to revisit residential down the road, we can but, and I'm gonna be real blunt here, okay?
You're gonna be like blunt.
Blunt, I'm real good at being blunt,
Yes, ma'am.
okay? We started, don't laugh at me, Walt. This whole thing got started because of the approval of that building across the street that's going in now. Now, I don't know how long it's gonna take to build that, but it's not gonna take till September or October.
Oh,
And if we do not pass this and have something that we can fall back on, they're gonna come to us with the canopy and all the other things that they've got going
good point.
for their approval, and we're not gonna have anything in stone, like we didn't have anything to be able to not approve that thing. So if we don't do this, and we don't do it now, so that we can have a hearing next month and have it approved by September 1, we're gonna be lucky to have anything in place before they come to us with their signs. Now, that's.
Great point, great point. Lynn, did you have anything more you want to add?
Not really.
You have an opinion? You want to just kind of say which way you're going? You don't have to. We can wait till we vote, but I just want to know what you're thinking.
Well, I got mixed emotions on it. For some, for the residential areas, it is a safety thing for them, the residents and stuff. To light up a downtown area with what we're looking at across the street, I mean, that is a concern of mine.
When you were talking residential, were you concerned that glare is a safety issue or not enough light is the safety issue?
I would say not enough light. I
Okay,
mean,
so that concerns you.
we don't have 24-hour police coverage and probably never will in this town. So we can't expect them, people figure out when they're working and that's when they strike. And it's not any fault of the police here whatsoever. I'm just saying they get a system figured out and that's when, when they hit it. So the more light, in my opinion, that we have, the less opportunity of that. Now, maybe motion sensors or something like that might be a better way to go rather than putting a light right next to the house. I don't know.
So maybe take up that, if we come back to residential with, we'll just be more sensitive. Are there really problems in town? And hey, this light's on all night, it's coming through my window, or we could even walk around and say, this is a pretty rude light you've got here. Maybe we should be doing some motion sensing examination of what's really necessary. We put that into a residential code. But maybe not all this other stuff we're talking about at a later time.
Yeah. That's something like that.
Jane?
I would agree that addressing the commercial end of it would be probably a good thing to do, just in the effect. It seems like a lot of the commercial lighting is affecting downtown residents. So I think addressing that right away and getting that solidified for the new businesses going in and the businesses that are here. For instance, we've had a lot of pushback on the fire sign that affects the residents in town. And I think that the new business across the street is probably gonna create the same thing happening. And so if we do address that, maybe readjusting our timeframe to comply. Because we had stretched it out from like 120 days to a year 2 months ago, I think, to comply to the new lighting requirements. And I think commercial is a lot more, I think they're more capable of complying to those regulations in a shorter time frame as opposed to residential, and that was the concern before, I believe, is that we stretch that time frame out to accommodate for residents that may not be able to afford to, you know, comply to the new regulations.
So what do you think about time frame for commercial to comply?
I think before we did we had talked about 120 days. I mean, in my opinion, 90 days, 3 months for a commercial business apply seems more than adequate.
Okay.
Especially with a new business going in, because then per se, they're not putting in what they want, and then all of a sudden they have to completely redesign and relight their business and establishment.
Well, if we have regulations in place for a business and they are starting up, they're gonna have to comply right off. They can't
Right.
put in something that doesn't comply and then wait 90 days to change it, so.
Right.
Now, let me separate it on commercial and, so you're saying when we go back, if we do revisit residential, maybe we would consider a longer time frame and have a different time frame for commercial. And it's sometime in the future, maybe we'd have a longer time frame for residential if we take up residential again.
Yeah.
And what's your feeling about taking up residential? Is just kind of like wait and see, or is that something you think we should maybe put at least at the bottom of our list or just off the bottom of the list?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, okay.
I think I'd have to hear more from the community and what people's thoughts are on it. And,
Yeah.
you know, the actual interactions between neighbors and neighborhoods. And I don't know if we get a lot of complaints on our neighbors' porch lights or security lights.
I don't receive any in the city.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't for the past year.
So, yeah, I'd say addressing the residential in the future, and definitely doing different rules and guidelines as opposed to commercial would probably be, you know, cater it more towards residents as opposed to commercial.
And Sean, let me hear what you're thinking and throw in your thoughts about time frame for commercial.
Okay, so I agree that we should focus on commercial. I kind of have, I have a philosophical issue a little bit with the residential period. Unless I start hearing that there's issues with it. The only residential thing that I would consider is, I've seen 1 or 2 houses that have the big tall things outside their house, big lamps, almost look like a street light. Though, if we're gonna do something residential, right, yeah, well, there's one over there by the high school, I've seen. That would be the case that I would say that's impacting abroad. I feel like a porch light addressing porch lights for residents is a burden that we're trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist. It's kind of what it feels like to me.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't think we need to vote on this because there's nothing to undo.
As far as commercial timeline, I was gonna say 60 to 90 days.
So thank you. 69, you go even shorter.
But-
So Walt, you've heard all this, and I'm gonna just say, yeah, this is what the commission's feeling like. I'm in with them. Walt, so you're clear that we're gonna back off of residential for now.
Okay,
And I guess the question is going forward with commercial only, what questions are left standing? And where we're at right now is we kind of have a 60 or a 90-day window for compliance for commercial.
I would probably go, okay, let's look at a couple of things here. You were hoping to have a public hearing next month. The downside is, by state law, I have to notify DLCD about the proposed amendments, and we're gonna be beyond the 35-day limitation to meet the August meeting. I don't think we're that far behind that we can't do it in September. However, we can go ahead and I could do a work session for the next meeting, just to make sure you know what you're adopting. I mean, because I couldn't hear part of the discussion, so I wanted to make sure that I get it right, as opposed to writing it during a public meeting. I mean, a actual public hearing.
Right.
That's not when you want to write it. You want to make sure you're all set to make the going forward. So if you don't mind, I would like to go ahead, revamp what we've done so far and set it up for the next meeting. Would that be acceptable to the commission?
So my only question is, what's the time frame? So they're supposed to give us a lighting plan that has to be reviewed.
And that is not gonna be 60 days down the road.
So that's my question is, what's the
It's
time?
not
We
gonna
know the
be.
timeline.
I mean, that's not the way building goes these days. That is a prefab building.
Oh, yeah.
And
So,
so the lighting is gonna be, I just, can we change the date of our meeting? To accommodate the 35 days?
You certainly could do that. Now, understand right now, it's August 19th, which is the third Monday. And if you go one extra week, get me enough time to get everything in the door and be set up for that meeting. I could certainly do that. Sue, that's a good idea.
I just know that it's not gonna be 60 days before they're gonna be ready to.
That'd be the 26th.
Yes, sir.
We good to go on the 26th? For our next planning commission meeting?
of which month?
How are you doing, Sean?
Which month? August or?
August 26th, moving it back a week.
Excellent. That would give me enough time to make sure I could get something together, get it off to the DLCD.
I can do that.
And so we have it scheduled, so we're good.
Okay, we're still getting head nods from everybody on making that change.
That's back a week or?
That's pushing it
Forward.
out.
Yeah, you're,
Well, what's forward and back?
Pushing it out.
Out, that's a good way to say it.
you wanna go
Out,
well, correct?
yes,
No,
farther away,
wait.
the 26th.
You wanna do it a week
And
earlier?
also, don't forget at the meeting.
A week later.
It's
Make
later.
necessary
The
amendments
week after it
for
would have
the
been.
final
August
item.
19th.
Okay, just a minute, while we're in a bit of confusion here. August 26th, the next planning commission. I don't care if it's
Correct.
push in or out, I don't care, the 26th. Are you got that, Angie? You look confused.
I do look confused because he needs more time in order to get DLC to the notice. So you would need to do the planning commission a week earlier, correct? Not a week
No,
later.
from now,
Or am I-
we need 35 days from now, and by pushing it into the
So you're
future
looking-
farther, a week, we will have that 35 days of notice so that we can have our public hearing.
Oh, we have to give notice.
Correct.
That's what this is for.
It's not a window to get it approved, to get it in under a limit.
So the public hearing will be,
On August 26th.
okay, and are we going to do a meeting before? Do we need to have a meeting to?
It was in a work session, I think.
Right,
Yeah, I think we need a work session before.
Well, here's the thing, you could do it one of two ways. I think I have a pretty good feel of where the planning commission wants to go with
Early
this.
on the same day.
We were looking at focusing on commercial, or I'll just use the term non-residential. I think you have most of the pieces in place. It's just a matter of going through there to make sure that I get rid of the residential material for now. When we could have a public hearing on the 26th, the commission still has the authority at that point to go ahead and make any changes they want to. And we can even continue it to September, but at least we can get it in August. And if it works out real well, fine, then it goes on to the council. If it doesn't, you can still continue it a month. So understand,
You can't
by
avoid
meeting on the
board.
26th, we can meet the state requirement. And we can also review the material and again, make changes if necessary. And in fact, I think we've done that once or twice. So
Okay,
it's not possible.
and just 1 second, well, yes, Sue.
So we can have the public hearing on the 26th.
Yes.
Yes.
And we will have gotten the memo before that, we'll have read it over. And if there's changes that need to be made, we could do it in that same meeting after the public hearing. I mean, we
Correct.
would often make changes as a result of the public hearing,
Yeah,
so
okay.
there's no problem
Yeah.
with that, it's.
No problem.
I just got a text that the online can't hear.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah,
they
we
can't
actually-
hear.
Unfortunately,
Actually, we could probably turn our mics on now,
Cause he's got his
because
speakers
he's got
off.
his speakers off.
I got a text that Walt,
I have him
Walt
on,
can
but
be
he's on a
heard
phone.
well on Zoom. I don't know
Well,
if-
cannot be heard well.
I got a text that says Walt can be heard well on.
Oh, so it's our very speaker. That makes me wanna take the broom handle and hit it.
Can be or can't?
Oh, she
Can
said
be.
they can hear us, but they can't hear Walt.
No, other way around.
Yeah, because.
If Walt's on there.
Yeah,
They can hear Walt on Zoom. But they can't hear us.
Hey, Ken,
Yes.
this could be problematic going forward with the rest of the meeting if we can't communicate. I'm having difficulty hearing you guys discuss things. And I'm trying to kind of figure out and just make sure I'm following. Do you think the only other item on the agenda is looking at Title 11? Would you feel comfortable that maybe wrap this up because the communication is just getting a little fuzzy?
I agree. Yeah, I'm okay pushing off
I'm sorry.
because of this, because that's gonna take a lot of talk.
Yes, no, absolutely.
So, well, before we let you go away on this lighting thing, let's just wrap up a loose end. We had one commissioner thought that maybe 60 days for compliance for the commercial was a good number. Another one said 90 days. Do you have a recommendation there?
I like to go for 90 days. I think that's more than reasonable. I think 60 might be a little too close. As one who has had to get some work done on the house, it's almost impossible to find someone to get into your home in 60 days to do the work.
Okay, we're talking commercial though. Now,
I know.
Okay.
Just getting a contractor can be a little difficult now.
okay. I see what you're saying. You're having trouble at your home, so contractors are tough to find. Very
They
good.
are tough to find.
Now, you took a lot of notes on this lighting ordinance last time that you still have, that we haven't seen you put into print yet, but because it was just you making notes from our last meeting, right?
Correct, and I still have that.
Yes, okay, so that'll come to us sometime a week or so before the 26th to review.
Correct.
Great. All right, what have I forgotten before we end this? Anybody?
Do you want to do updates at all on the?
Well, the updates, we could do updates. The people online can't hear them. I guess we're not required to be heard online by law. I guess updates isn't gonna, it would be good for us to hear them. It's not gonna be unfair to the people that can't hear them.
Okay.
So could you just give us an update on the different grants?
Okay, basically, the housing grant, technical assistant grant for the updating the code with regard to housing, the downtown, et cetera. There are going through the last minute changes on some of the contract work. We have been meeting as sort of the advisory, not the technical group. And so the things have got started. I think everything's on track. It's just at finalizing the contracts. So there's nothing new to report in terms of results. Okay, so everything's on track. And then the TSP, or the Transportation and Growth Management project, applying for a transportation system plan. I'm approaching my first draft done. We still have plenty of time, and I want to get that done this week. I've been delayed for a couple of reasons, but I am definitely on track to get that done in time and well before the deadline. So that's kind of where we stand, and no bad news. How's that?
This is great, Will. Thank you. I'm gonna go away unsatisfied. We didn't get our usual 15 rounds, so I'm looking forward to next time.
Okay, let's hope it works a little better, but you know, things happen. Welcome to the 21st century.
Yeah, all right.
Okay,
Thank you.
and
And
thank you all. Good folks.
You too. And if anybody has objection, we'll adjourn. Done. Did I see a hand?
No.